Hey guys, this is What If Deku was the 1000th user of One for All. Let's dive right into it. So, last time we left off, Deku unlocked a new quirk, a slight generation quirk. It allowed him to heal at certain levels. So he couldn't regenerate limbs or anything of that sort, but he could heal from near-death situations if it was necessary. So if he had life-threatening injuries on his body would instantly start to heal them as fast as possible, going beyond humanly possible. So if he was, let's just say, scratched on the arm and it wasn't like dying, he wasn't infected or anything, it would just heal normally. It wouldn't supercharge heal. So Pit Simple is a type of regeneration ability that belonged to a very sadistic user of One for All that basically used his regeneration ability to basically make himself look like a messiah in his, village, and basically make them praise and desire him. So that's basically what he did. So we're going to get more into how personalities of past users will affect Zuko, because that's going to be a really big plot point in this What If. But let's just dive right into his fanfiction. Sorry if you heard something in background noise, but a bit simple. Let's dive right into his fanfiction. Last time I left off, after Zuko getting that new ability and that new power from a past user of One for All, he also took down Bakugo, almost killed him, but saved him the last minute. And you'll learn more about what happened last episode if you watch it. But let's dive right into the present and how that would affect the story so far. It gets switched to the next day of school, as Zuko would have walked into class, chilling, relaxing, talking to his friend. Well, one of his other friends he made doing a couple weeks following off camera, as he actually walked up to Kirishima and started talking to him. Kirishima and him would start to talk a little bit, but eventually then being cut off when Azawa basically tells the students that they're going to be doing some training at the USJ. And Izuku knows a little bit about the USJ and the history of it because offline and all the stuff, saying that it's a hero training camp, right? Oh snap, I'm so excited! As they start to get ready and they throw on their hero costumes. And I think I showed you his hero costume is more of an armor built, since it's basically built and pretty much designed to keep his body as strong as it possibly can with him using his power. Because there is a limit to the regeneration quirk Izuku got. It can regenerate from basically nothing, and it has to have at least a heart left or some sort of blood flow going at a certain level. So he can't be burnt to a crisp or his blood completely sucked out of his body or anything like that, but he can regenerate from something like I don't know, decay on his head or something. But as long as his heart is intact, he's good. He's ready to go, Deadpool style. But basically, or vampire style, I guess. But basically, what happened is Zuko and everybody would have gotten ready, and they would start to get on their journey to the USJ. Eventually they would get into USJ, but before that, they would be talking in the bus. Kachan would have started to basically talk a little bit, but eventually him being overhearing about everybody talking about Izuku's quirk or quirks, as they would have started talking about, do you have two quirks at Todoroki? Todoroki would have chimed in saying, I don't have two quirks, I only have one. As she would have walked away, not walked away, but looked away, I guess menacingly or nonchalant dreadhead. I don't know, man. He think he's so cool, bro. No, but he is. But basically, we see that Izuku would have just started to talk to everybody. Him not trying to gas himself up too much, but saying that he just has one quirk that allows him to make random quirks. As everybody's shocked by this, saying you can make random quirks, Izuku. That's awesome. And they would start to literally jock on this man's clock. I mean, Jesus Christ, man. Bro, they should call themselves P. Diddy, because the way they're puff daddying Izuku is crazy. But we'll see how Izuku and everybody else would have arrived at the USJ, as I would have escorted them inside the building, and then eventually meeting up with 13, the space hero. As she would have started to explain to them about quirks and about natural disasters, and that quirks can cause a lot of problems, a lot of damage, but they also can cause a lot of good and help. So we're going to be training today to figure out and basically train you for natural disasters and save lives, because being a hero isn't just about taking out villains. It's about saving people's lives and doing the right thing and being the best you could possibly be. Before she goes more into depth about her speech, they get basically interrupted by a huge lightning bolt that's thrown directly at Izuku. Like, it's aimed directly at him. Like, it should have never
ever miss anybody else. It aimed directly towards Izuku. Izuku last minute dodges, but he gets electrocuted right in the chest, blasting a hole through his stomach. Izuku falls onto the ground and everybody's yelling out in shock that Izuku just got literally sniped. The black portal opens up and we see some sort of new villain pop out of the shadows with some sort of electro type fit from TASM 2. Not like the comic book one, but more like an all black suit with like lightning and blue energy fading off his body. Kind of like Kirigiri's quirk, but lightning. That's his appearance. So what would happen is they would have started to literally jump the class as Aizawa would have started to turn off their quirks and take them out one by one, and honestly just straight up boxing these guys up, no hesitation, telling the class to get out now. Chop, chop, bro. You are not going to get goxed up, bro. 13 tells the students to get Izuku and let's get out of here now. They would have been running, but eventually they would have been stopped by Kirigiri. Kirigiri would have eventually would have cornered them up and would have dispersed them. As Izuku would have opened his eyes after he would have been teleported away next to pretty much Froppy, since she would have had him on his back, as Froppy and him would have been basically separated by the portal, as Froppy would have been near the boat. Izuku would have been falling, but not near the water area. Izuku would have been falling on top of a concrete pillar, or basically building, as it would have fell directly on the building's top side, basically the door that opens up to the door to the roof, as he would have fell on top of it, falling off onto the roof. Izuku would have been yelling out in pain, but him grunting and his body starting to regenerate fast and shortly. Izuku would have gotten back up, as he would have looked at the big hole in his suit, but just pretty much looking off of it, as he would have gotten back up. Basically, his body is starting to do its work and regenerate his organs and his basic body. Izuku would have looked behind himself, getting hit with a mean haymaker by some random ass villain with some sort of superhuman strength quirk, or strength enhancing quirk. Izuku would have been sent flying almost off the roof, but Izuku uses super strength and the armor of his suit to basically drill his fingers into the concrete wall, climbing up a bit like Miguel O'Hara's, and climbing up a bit Black Panther style, and basically punching the absolute soul out of this man, bro. Punched him straight through the door that led up to the roof and causing attention to the other villains that were inside the building. Eventually, about 16 to 17 villains would have started to rush up the stairs, and Izuku would have noticed that this is bad because he was about to get jumped. So Izuku would have literally used a super big blast of One For All and kicked the entire staircase down to rubble. Majority of those villains were probably paralyzed for half of their lives or basically permanently, and majority of the rest of them were in critical condition because he literally collapsed the entire staircase on them. Izuku would have jumped out of the staircase before it collapsed completely, as he would have jumped to building using his quirk as good as he can in his lower legs, pushing himself faster and faster. Eventually, Izuku would have realized that his quirk and his legs actually worked a lot better and was a little bit easier to manage and wasn't as painful as using it in his arms, because when he used it in his arms, we never really were shown this, but he does talk about how when he uses it in his arms, it hurts a little bit like a pinch on his nerves or a pinch on his muscles, and it feels like if he pushed it any farther, it would feel like someone took a chainsaw to his ligaments or his muscle fibers. So we see how Izuku would have started to run and jump to building, him eventually losing out of momentum as he would almost fall off the edge of a building, but grabbing the building's side pretty much pole, basically being like a flag or something. Izuku would have jumped to a nearby building a little bit lower down to the ground, as he would have gotten back up after his leg would have actually combuckled on itself, breaking instantly. Izuku would have started to regenerate after the leg the leg bone popped out of his body and started rupturing a vital blood vessel, so it was life or death. So he started to regenerate his leg back. Eventually, before he did that, a random ass Nomu, a second Nomu, because All For One or One For All was after this man's cheeks and basically started to jump Izuku. This Nomu was similar to the build and flexibility of, I guess you can say, can't remember exactly what anime character it is, but an Ajin from that one Netflix anime, or the manga. So basically, it would start to literally lunge at my man's Izuku. It having a similar quirk to a mommy, as it would start to wrap its bandages, or I guess body parts at at Azuku. Azuku started to dodge the way as fast as he could, pulling Spider-Man moves, as he would have been trying to move as flexible as he could, but he's not as flexible in aerodynamics as he is later on in the series, since he just got his quirk and is already way stronger than original. So yeah, Zuko starts to dodge out the way, relying majority on his suit's mechanics and strength and, well, pretty much compactness of it to keep himself from basically breaking too much of his body. Not breaking his bones, since his body kind of is really more built now in this continuity, since All Might trained him even harder, but it's still not enough because he's not superhuman physically enough for him to take the quirk at it is, because he just got the quirk. It's like rarely new. Azuko started to dodge the way as fast as possible, and learning that he probably can't get too close to it, as he would have shot a huge wind blast or gust of wind towards the Nomu, shooting the Nomu into a nearby pillar on top of the roof. Azuko would have jumped off the roof, basically falling into a puddle of water, as this rooftop would have been right next to the water area. Azuko looked around himself, seeing pretty much villains start to swarm at him, as Azuko would have had an adrenaline rush, as out of nowhere, Azuko would have had an idea, as he would have opened his hands and would have slammed his hands down at the ground, slammed his hands down in the water, as he would have electrocuted everything that was in the water at the time, literally sapping these guys to kingdom come. As one of the Nomus would have tried to get in the water with Azuko, but him getting electrocuted as well, getting knocked out cold. Azuko would have gotten back up, as he would have had some electricity burns and all sorts of other marks all over his body, as it would have been kind of like a design of a tattoo over his back. Azuko would have gotten back up, as his body would start to heal from it, since it basically almost gave him cardiac arrest, since he almost electrocuted himself because he was in water when he electrocuted himself. It's not a OP quirk, he's not immune to electricity. Azuko could still get electrocuted if he wanted to, or if it was like, if he got shocked with himself, it wouldn't hurt as much as normal electricity. But if, let's say, Denki shot him with electricity, it would hurt like he got hit with straight up lightning. So let's say that Azuku gets back up, as Froppy and Mineta knows all the villains start to pop out the water and just float on the top, as they would have started to swim on the other side, as eventually they would have helped the Azuku, as they would have started to walk away. Froppy telling Azuku that was pretty rushed, but thank you for saving us, as they would start to walk their way. But out of nowhere, Azal would have been fighting Kirigiri and basically trying to keep his distance, but eventually Shigaraki would have saw the villains or the kids noticing the green-haired boy, saying that that's what Master wants me to go after. He would have lunged directly towards Azuku, as he would have started to lunge straight towards him, as Azuku would have looked at him and basically would have saw that, well, Shigaraki kind of messed up his approach, because he went straight for Froppy to basically lower, or I guess target Azuku's emotional attachment, since, well, let's just think in Shigaraki's head, if he was a little boy, a little kid, and one of his classmates were killed right in front of him, his mental state would be in shambles, and Master would be able to manipulate him and take his quirk even easier. So he went straight for Froppy to kill his bitch. I mean, straight up send her to the gulag. Deku in this short second would have realized this, as before, well, Azal would step in to use his quirk before Shigaraki can pretty much decay Froppy's skull, and Azuka would have grabbed pretty much Shigaraki's hand and would have chucked him back about 6 feet, grabbing Froppy and Mineta and chilling out there as fast as possible, using basically majority of all of his force in his right leg, pushing them up into a nearby pillar or building, falling through the glass window, and pretty much falling right next to, well, Kirishima and Bakugo's party. As they would have looked at him, and they would have seen the huge amalgamation that Azuka left his leg in. I mean, this thing was mangled. Oh my god, this thing was mangled. Jesus. As Azuka would have been helped up by pretty much, well, Shigaraki, not Shigaraki, but Kirishima, and pretty much, I think it was Shigarashi, as they would have started to get out there as fast as possible, as they would eventually make some way for Ida to eventually escape, as Deku would have used himself as a decoy, as pretty much Kirigiri would try to grab him, but leaving down their guard, giving enough time for Ida to run out there and warn, well, pretty much the heroes. The heroes would have been warned, and eventually they would show up, shooting the kneecaps out of Shigaraki, and eventually before that would happen, Shigaraki would have actually been about 6 feet away from Deku, about to take him, but him being stopped last minute. Now, for plot reasons, if you're wondering, oh, how does All For One know Azuka was the next user? Pretty simple, this quirk has been around for decades. And I think one instance around the Catholic era, around when that was like the peak of its around when that was the peak of its religion, around that area, they would have actually had a huge fight in a nearby church, them obtaining a new quirk that would have binding themselves together for decades. And their quirks basically have a type of beacon to each other. Now, plain simple, Kirigiri and Shigaraki, and basically All For One with his new array of quirks that are basically make him 1,000 times stronger than canon. Pretty simple, he is literally connected mentally to the quirk. So if anybody's passed down to the quirk, they would have memories, nightmares, or just sense each other's presence. That's the most likely and most common one with the quirk. They would sense each other's presence when they were around, or sense where they were. So basically, plain and simple, it's kind of like a flip or a coin toss. Either you know exactly where they are, or either you just track down a past user leading you to a grave, or either an old man, or either a person that has the remnants of, well, One For All in him. So basically, yeah. So All For One is kind of taunting, thinking maybe it is the boy, or maybe it is All Might. As he's still trying to think about that, but he just wants to be safe and tell them to kill the boy or take him so he can take his quirk away from him. And basically combine the two quirks together. As All For One is basically kind of just contemplating in his mind, thinking that humanity is just so corrupted and he needs to save them. He needs to bring them down to simplicity. The world is brought down with shades of gray and black, but it's only black in my world. As pause, well, I don't even know what I'm saying, but pretty simple, he's a lot more, I guess, like a Apocalypse X-Men type, I guess, mentality. So pretty simple, after that would have all happened, we would see that, well, One For All For One would have went back in the shadows, not showing up there in person, but him just looking from the eyes of Shigaraki would have a quirk that would allow him to see through the eyes of someone he blessed his quirk with. So he basically would be able to bless a user with the ability, or bless somebody with basically a quirk that would allow him to see through their eyes and them theirs. So basically they would be able to see through his eyes, but he would have another quirk that would actually back up that whole contradictory quirk and would allow them to only be able to be a puppet to him. So he can only see out their eyes, and they can't see shit from his. They can only hear shit, but they can't see anything. So I would leave it up here, guys. So after that would happen, before I ended off completely, get a little backlash, basically heroes would have shown up, Shigaraki and the rest of the group would have dipped, Deku would have been in critical condition, Deku getting healed up because his leg wasn't completely life-threatening after his whole big explosion attack on his leg, since his last pretty much broken leg was literally like a complete fracture of multiple different vital, blood vessels and pretty much arteries in his leg. So yeah, basically what happened, Izuku would have started to get healed by pretty much, what was it? Got her name, Recovery Girl. And everybody else would be recovered as well, and yada yada yada. Everything would have gone similar the same, but a lot different. Izuku would have been a lot more scared, actually, as All Might would have visited him in the hospital saying that, I'm sorry this has happened, or that happened. Now, the same thing would have happened in original. All Might would eventually show up and would have taken down the first original, pretty much dark blue Nomu, like in canon, and basically that would have happened all the same. After that would have happened, we get switched to, well, that night after all the students would have been told they have a couple of days off since the whole event at the USJ, as pretty much the simple, Izuku is now more than ever scared for his life. He knows that people might even know he's already the next successor, and he's in more danger than he could possibly even imagine. All Might warned him about this a little bit in some ways, but not truly told him the true gravity of being a successor of All For One. Or One For All. That One For All can bring you so much pain, destruction, and also can kill you if you're not strong enough or fast enough or better enough or good enough. Deku almost got murdered today, and he felt so much pain today that he can't even explain how his heart was feeling in those moments when he thought he was going to die. But I'm gonna leave it out here, guys. So I know the video is kind of a little bit short, probably like 20 minutes long. I don't know for certain, but I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you like and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a blessed day. Deuces.